Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome. I hope you've been enjoying this year's IT Professionals Conference. I'm Ellen Lalazern. I'm an IT support technician with DoIT, and I'm a member of the platform committee for this conference. And I'll be moderating this session, plugging into the IT policy process with you today. And please note that we will be recording this presentation, and an accessible video will be available for viewing on the IT Professionals Conference website in the coming weeks. And I'll begin by introducing Sarah Tate Peterson, Jason Erdman, Jeff Savoy, and Tim Bond, who are your presenters today. Their presentation will follow, and then we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. Now, I would like to introduce Sarah Tate Peterson. She has over 25 years of experience and currently serves as an IT policy writer and analyst with DoIT's Office of Cybersecurity. She also co-leads our Campus Women in IT steering team and is a co-representative for UW-Madison with the Big Ten Academic Alliance Women in IT. She's also a long-standing advocate and participant in strategic initiatives that promote collaboration, inclusion, and diversity across campus, serving in the past on various groups and committees, including, but not limited to, IT Project Intake, the Inclusion and Diversity Council, the IT Mentoring Program, IT Professional, and this IT Professionals Conference. She enjoys opportunities to experience the great outdoors and our national parks, drive fast cars, and Lego with her partner, James. Jason Erdman is a UW-Madison alum who is an IT project manager for the School of Education and has been working for them since 2000. In that role, he works with departments and users on IT projects, hardware and software support, networking, and security. He's also active on the campus level as the co-chair of Leadership Improvisation, co-chair of the Policy and Planning Analysis Communications Committee, and co-chair of the UW-Madison IT Talks Technical, and is a member of the IT Professionals Group and ITLP Forward. Outside of work, Jason spends time with his family and does volunteer work for the National Ski Patrol as both the patrol director of the Tyrol Basin Ski Patrol and as an outdoor emergency care instructor. Jeff Savoy has been serving as CISO, since 2021. Prior to stepping in the CISO role, he served as an interim director, Deputy CISO, and Assistant Director of Cybersecurity Operations. He has over 25 years of experience in information technology security, including a national reputation as an incident response expert. Jeff focuses on leading and developing security staff, generating and implementing cybersecurity strategies, coordinating incident response and vulnerability programs, and collaborating with campus partners to reduce risk. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Engineering Mechanics from UW-Madison and a Master's of Science in Cybersecurity Management from Purdue University Global. And last but not least, Tim Bond is the Deputy Chief Information Security Officer and Assistant Director of Cybersecurity Programs and Business Systems for the UW-Madison campus. Prior to this role, he was Senior Manager, Identity and Access Management for Foot Locker Inc. Tim leads the team that focuses on IT policy, security education, training and awareness, cybersecurity engineering, and student information systems application security. He also volunteers as the Vice President of Technology for the Project Management Institute, Madison South Central Wisconsin chapter. Additionally, he's retired from the U.S. Army Reserve in the rank of Master Sergeant, and he holds a Master's of Business Administration with an Information Security concentration from Keller Graduate School of Management. He also holds a number of certifications, but for time consideration, I won't list them for you. And I also wanted to take note that Sarah Lean is our technical support today, and she will be very helpful to make sure we stay together technically. And now I'll turn it over to you, Sarah, Jason, Tim, and Jeff.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to IT Policy Plugging into the Process. I'd like to start with a short what policy is and isn't. Policy is a roadmap for how we do things. It's going to ensure compliance with regulations, give guidance, clarity, and accountability. What it isn't is boring and dry. I know this surprised the heck out of me when I got involved in it initially years ago, but it's actually a rich, fun group of people to work with. What it also isn't is a secret club of people that determines all the things. So really, who should be involved in this? And the answer to that is anyone. There are tens of thousands of faculty, staff, and students on this campus, and you all have your own unique perspectives and ideas. Your input is important to the development of policies. And so let me just share with you quick, here's a secret handshake for how to get involved in all of this. Hey, that sounds fun. I'd like to get involved. That's it. So for those of you who have joined us in the past for our IT policy forums that we typically hold quarterly, the next hour is going to be pretty familiar. For those of you that are new to this, again, welcome. And then this session is going to follow the agenda that you see here. And there's going to be a good chunk of time set aside for breakout rooms, discussions, and then some report outs after that. So hopefully you'll be having some great conversations and really kind of get engaged with a few of your colleagues across campus. So if you hear something today that really piques your interest, think about reaching out and getting involved. And with that, let me pass it over to our CISO, Jeff Savoy.
Okay, thank you, Jason. I've been the CISO now officially for almost 6 months. And before that, I had an interim period. And during this process, I've had a chance to kind of increase my involvement with policy development on campus. And this includes working with the policy analysis and planning team, the PAT, as well as the PAT executive group, as well as ITC. You know, in ITC, if you haven't heard, ITC is the Information Technology Committee, and it's basically the faculty advisory board for policy and planning for all things IT on campus. So I've had a chance to work with those groups and actually see policies work their way through. And I thought I'd start this morning by talking what I saw were some of the highlights this year. And I would also start by saying we're going to be referencing throughout this presentation these policy and the policy numbers. Like on the first bullet, it's UW-527. At the end, but I'll tell you now, we have some links, but policy.wisc.edu is the policy library, and you can look up all the policies that we talk about there. There's also similar, in some cases, system policies, and those can be found at www.wisconsin.edu/UW policies. Again, the link's at the end, but these policies are published and you can go back and read those. So some of the highlights this year. Earlier this year, the IT asset reporting policy was approved. And what I saw this year was a lot of work by the group on actually getting our devices in an inventory in such a way that could be reported to UW system. UW system has a related policy, 1035, and that's the IT asset management standard. And so what we had to do to be compliant with that is work through how we're going to, we had the list of all these devices on campus. We have to, collect all that information and then send it to system. And there was a lot of work that went into it by campus groups. So that was certainly a highlight for me, is coming together and gathering that data and supplying it to system. The next highlight that I saw was the approval of the digital accessibility policy. That's UW-519. And so again, for me, that's a real important one. Really, one of the things that does is really make sure that we have a consistent IT experience for all users, and we have a path to get there. And so that was a real important policy. And when I say a policy in this case, there was also an implementation plan that went along with the policy. And so that's well on its way at this point. And next on my list there was the endpoint management and security policy. 526 was approved. And not only was that approved, but the heavy lift that went on was developing the standards, a reference standard for this policy, as well as an implementation plan. And that's where we saw a lot of campus collaboration. I was looking back at my calendar invites, and I could see us talking about this as early as April. And I think we've had weekly meetings almost since April developing these standards. And that only happened because, we needed that collaboration, and there was interest in joining these, like Jason was saying, people raising their hand and wanting to join these groups. And so we had a drafting team that met, I think it was bi-weekly, but we've been meeting for a while to develop these standards. And at one point we got a bunch of technologists together, and they drafted the actual standards. They actually dug into the standards, thought what would work on this campus. And that was incredible for me to see that. And so really kudos to everyone that participated in that. And again, this shows me the strength of all of us working together to get these policies and standards through the system. So those are some of the highlights. Next slide, please. So what does the future hold? The near future, it just highlights from my perspective, and we'll talk a little bit more, Sarah and Tim, maybe talking about other things in the future. But for me, one of the things I look forward to is that we have a new ITC chair. Catherine Arnett Smith will be the chair in the fall. And again, that's an important part of the policy piece, because as these policies get drafted by the PAT and go up to ITC, that's where they get faculty input and eventually through the approval process. So I look forward to working with Catherine on that. And I also look forward to Sean Green. He's the outgoing chair, but he'll still be an ITC committee member. So I look forward to working with both of them coming up here. We're going to probably do some adjustments to some existing policies in the new year here. So one of them, I think Sarah's going to be talking about policy UW-510. And I call that the policy of policies, right? That's kind of how policy development happens on campus. And so there might be some adjustments to that. I know there will be some adjustments to that coming up. One small adjustment that's on my radar might be UW-509, which is the incident reporting and response policy. That's when you have a breach, how do you report it to my group, the Office of Cybersecurity, that can assist with the investigation and ultimately make sure it gets reported to the right areas as well. There might be some adjustments to a similar system policy, which I believe is 1033. And if there is adjustments to that one, we may need to make small adjustments to our policy as well. And that's something you'll notice throughout, maybe through some of the conversation today, is that UW system has their policies, and sometimes we, to make it more usable here, have to make our own policies that are similar to systems. And so when they make adjustments, sometimes we have to make adjustments. Mostly we would hope to our standards and not the policy itself, but sometimes to the policy. That brings me to my next point, the campus policy awareness effort. We have a lot of IT and IT security policies. How do we make campus aware ongoing that these policies exist, especially when we have turnover with staff and new staff take new roles? How do they become aware that policies exist? And it's not one solution, but one idea that we have is an idea of making a survey, a brief survey. Next slide, please. So one idea is to request schools divisions, and probably in the units to the extent we can get into the unit level. How can you report maybe your policy compliance efforts? So the idea there is maybe select a few IT security policies or IT policies, probably IT security initially, as well as the 2021 Security Actions Memo. We've been calling that basically the Thompson Memo. That was UW System President Thompson in early of last year sent out a memo of requirements for all the campuses in UW system. And the idea behind this was really because of all the ransomware that was really running rampant across the world. And we saw that here in Madison too. We saw some significant ransomware events in early 2021. And so President Thompson worked with the Board of Regents, and they came out with a bunch of directives that we had to implement. One of those was you had to back up your high-risk data every 28 days. Another one was that if you had open internet ports, you had to make sure they were turned off or protected. Things like that were part of the Thompson Memo. And my question is, how many people remember the Thompson Memo and remember those directives? And how do we increase awareness that those exist? And so again, this may be where a quick survey could help remind people that these are directives that we have to hit, and for the reasons that we have to hit them. And so again, this leads me to this idea of a survey. Next slide, please. If we develop a survey, my idea would be, and I'm socializing this now, is to make it really short. And I have an example of maybe 2 survey questions. It could be just this simple. For example, does your unit have a documented plan for backing up high-risk data every 28 days? Yes, no. And maybe if someone says no, a comment box appears and someone can put a comment in there. And this is just a simple example, but maybe we have some, what does a plan include? So maybe we have more text on what a plan would include. What is high-risk data? Maybe we have a link there to explain a little bit more what high-risk data is. But I would anticipate this survey not being very time-consuming. I would like to keep it definitely under a half an hour. There's something that people could answer very quickly. And it may end up being just this simple. Next slide, please. So what does that give us? Well, one idea is that it really does raise awareness. I think it can raise awareness with our IT leaders and IT staff that these things exist. You know, if you have to answer, do you have a backup plan established for high-risk data? Maybe you didn't know that was from the Thompson memo that you had to have that plan documented. So again, I think it will help with awareness. I think it'll help with gaps. If you say no, that's not going to trigger, I'm not intending that to trigger an audit of some sort. If you answer no, well, then we know it's no and that you maybe need assistance. And so maybe we can help. So it's really understanding where those gaps are. There was also an audit finding by UW System internal audit. They did an audit or are almost done with the audit of the Thompson memo. And they're finding that there are gaps that people may not have realized that they needed to document a plan, for instance, for backing up high risk data. And so this will, by doing the survey, this will help address that as well. And I'd also say as CISO, I'm the official designee, security designee for Madison. And there are times when I have to report our compliance to system. And this will help give me more accurate information. So if there's a survey we send out and I get results back, it'll put me in a stronger position to give a more accurate picture to system on what our compliance is and where our gaps may be. So I think these things will all help get a better picture, both for us and system. So there's still details to work out on that, and I intend on working that in the summer. And if you want to contribute, like Jason said, raise your hand and you want to talk to me about it or you have some ideas, I'd be glad to hear them. Feel free to arrange a meeting with me or to send me an email. We can glad to have the discussion. Next slide, I think, Sarah, is this you?
Yes, it is. Thanks, Jeff. And I am just looking at the time here quick, and I know that we're a few minutes behind, so I will be brief. As Jeff mentioned earlier, we are doing some tweaks to our policy on policies, otherwise known as UW 510, which the overarching theme here of doing some revisions to this policy is to be in alignment with the campus policy library process. So currently our IT policy process is a 9-step process that follows the Cornell model as shown here: plan, recommend, propose, draft, endorse, approve, deploy, comply, and review. And when we are done with this work on updating the policy, it will then look like this, which is the UW-Madison policy lifecycle. So as you can see here, it's basically a very similar process. We have identified need, draft and edit, review and revise, consult, approve, and publish. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tim Bone, just in the interest of time, because I know we do want to have our breakout groups today and gather some of your feedback. So Tim, take it away.
Thanks, Sarah. So real quickly, just wanted to make everyone aware of some up and coming policies. And as we mentioned before, we'll be sharing out the slides and making these available in addition to the recording and everything like that, so you can go back on these policies as necessary. So right now, some of those that are some new policies that are in the hopper from UW System is around network protection. They're looking to finish up here in September. That's their roadmap right now. Identity and access management, they're starting here at the end of June, and then a vendor risk assessment policy starting up in August. And then you can see some of the timelines for starting revisions of those other system policies there in the graph. Next slide. And coincidentally, we've got some up and coming ones in the hopper here at UW-Madison. Again, we've talked about the 510. We're also looking at the 504, which is our data classification, to coincide with what system has. They're in their revision process right now for 1031 on data classification. I know there's a lot of confusion across campus as far as how to classify our data and everything like that. So hopefully the revisions on these policies will help with clarifying that a little bit more. And then privileged account management standard. This has been drafted. We are seeking approval here, come up the fall time, but it'll be tied in with our IT credentials policy that's looking to be hopefully issued out later on this year. And then a threat and vulnerability management policy. So next slide. And again, as Sarah mentioned, we want to get out into our breakout rooms. So these are the 3 questions that we're looking to discuss in our breakout rooms. How do you see you and or your department implementing policies across that are currently in the hopper? What challenges do you foresee? And what tools, resources, and our support would be beneficial for the implementation and compliance? Please remember to, in your breakout rooms, to select a reporter, because we are looking to do some report outs at the end here. And again, this is recorded, so we'll be able to capture those and be able to go back on and implement those. So with that, I would offer up, Ellen,
Yes.
go ahead.
Yep, thank you. And I just want to let you know that Sarah will be sending you to your breakout rooms, and don't forget to turn on your mic and your camera during your session. So break room away.
$11 rooms. Hopefully they have some good discussions, although looks like I see one room with like 1 person.
I'm gonna shift a few people around. When I did the math, then people moved. So I'm gonna.
Thanks, Sarah.
Appreciate your management of this stuff here.
She does a great job.
Big +1 to that.
Yes, I was gonna say, I mean, in a session that I was presenting in yesterday, as soon as like the breakout room started, like half of the session just dropped off. And so then the person who was coordinating the rooms had to like do some juggling. I think that was Mandy. Was it not, Ellen?
Yes, it was Mandy. Yeah, we had like 101 participants, and then the word breakout room came up and it dropped down to like 60. Something to that effect, maybe 55, because that didn't include the presenters. And for those of you that are still waiting, hopefully you'll be assigned soon.
Okay.
I was trying to see how many rooms we end up with, so know how long to be looking at report outs.
Yeah. Well, because the one session, concurrent session dropped out, we were expecting to have a few more than originally thought.
Are some of the people that are still in the room, are you guys having a hard time getting to the breakout rooms? You
I
should
was
be.
hoping just to bop around between the rooms and
What?
hear the discussion. I was just hoping to kind of move between the rooms. If I could, was that possible, or is that not?
I believe, let me change.
You
the
can,
thing, I can do that.
yeah, he can join any of the
Yeah.
rooms, right?
Yeah.
You
As
see
a
the difference?
co-host.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
But there's a 1, 2, 4 people, Aaron, Patrick, and Peter, who are still not joining rooms. So we were wondering if they were having issues. Oh, Laura Grady is back. There's a few more that came back.
They may have walked away from the keyboard too.
Yeah.
My,
Laura's
par-
back in her session.
can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So my partner in crime does not have a microphone, and I
Okay.
didn't write down the questions. So we were a great
Sarah,
team.
Sarah will be putting the questions into as a message to everybody in the break rooms. And I should have said
Oh,
that at the
okay.
end of my little thing about turning the mic on, but apologize for that.
No, that's okay. Is there a different group that I could go into then?
Sarah's doing the assigning,
Yep,
so
so I'm working on it.
Okay,
Okay, let me,
thank you.
and I'll put the questions, actually the questions in the chat while you're doing that. Does that work for you?
yes, please.
Okay, and those are the questions that are in the outline you sent, right?
Yeah,
So Ellen, if you put them in the chat right now, only the people that are not assigned to rooms will see that chat. Everyone assigned to a room and joined the room will not see that
Un-
chat.
under the breakout rooms, if you go to broadcast message to all, then it should go to all of them.
Yeah, but that only puts a blip up on top of the screen and it goes away.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't stay static for those rooms.
Oh,
So you have to go into each and every room and
Okay.
paste the.
do you want me to do that?
Probably a good idea.
Yes, please.
All right. Let's see if cutting and pasting will be happy for me.
Are any of the 4 people that are still in here needing to be moved to a room? Okay,
Yeah.
I think they just are opting out of doing the breakouts, which is cool. It's fair.
You just get to listen to us talk. It's all good.
Yeah. And if you're trying to do it from a mobile device, then breakout rooms are kind of hard to do.
Looks like we have 5 actual rooms is what we landed on.
Yep.
All right. So that's going to be
So I'd say,
2.
I mean, Jason, if we still started 22.
I just want to make sure to have the room numbers marked down. So when I call out for report outs, I don't say, hey, and report out from room 1, crickets, because there wasn't one.
Right.
So I see rooms 2, 3, 7, 8, 10. So that should be good. And we had what, 10 minutes for report outs? Is that what we had slotted, Sarah?
Yep.
So yeah, with time to transition between groups, that's like a minute and a half a group. That's pretty decent. I'll leave some time for some Q&A, which I saw some questions going through chat, which some got some answers in there, but I don't know, might want to bring back up again.
Just because this part's being recorded, do you want me to pause the recording for right now?
Probably could.
Okay. They have about 30 seconds to wrap it up. And closing the room.
I accidentally clicked the leave room in the middle of me talking. Oh, that's so embarrassing.
It happens.
It does. Welcome back, Vince. Good to see you.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Give it just a minute or two here to let people keep popping in here. All right. Probably have a few more people that are still going to be popping in here, but we will start looking at some report outs here. So hopefully each room got somebody designated as your report out person. Even more, hopefully that you all had some good conversations here. So and I'll apologize now there for some of the shuffling that happened at the beginning here. As we were going for breakout for rooms, I guess a few people had other plans or sudden emergencies. So we shuffled the rooms around a bit to make sure that we had enough in each room to have some good conversations. So of the 5 rooms that we ended up with, we'll start out with room 2. I see David, John, Manda, and Sabrina. Do we have somebody who would like to unmute and do about a minute or so report out for your conversation?
I will report out for group 2. So for implementing policies, one of the big things that we talked about is that it's hard to come up with a plan without knowing what the policies or anything of that will say. So once we have that information, then we will take it and figure out processes of how we're going to implement that in our respective schools and colleges. And I know for me at engineering, we're also working on our own policies for our college of how to tailor those respective policies to our needs here. And for challenges with policy implementation, one of the biggest challenges that we all think we're going to face is just getting faculty and college leadership on board for our respective groups. I can say for myself, we've been trying to get leadership ready to know this, or to let them know this is coming and that we need their backing. And then tools and resources. We really just having support from DoIT of the different tools and just help rolling this out and figuring it out. Any of that would be very much appreciated.
Great.
Thank you.
Very much, Amanda, in room 2. Next up, we have room 3, which I'm seeing Jason, Roger, and Thomas.
Yeah, I can give you a little update here, what we talked about. As far as implementing policies that are currently in the hopper, we had a mix of people that were in different areas of IT, and some of the things we talked about didn't necessarily focus on writing security plans or implementing them, but some of the things that we had were relying on people who know the policies inside and out to implement those in things like group policies that can be pushed out. For our department, basically identifying and planning the policies that get put in the hopper and then assigning priority is kind of how we implement them. It's kind of a new thing for us. We just started doing it. As far as challenges, some of the challenges we identified were policies that are too prohibitive and inhibit your ability to do your work. Like maybe you're not allowed to install something like Wireshark on your desktop to troubleshoot network traffic. That can be a problem. So policies that are written with the stakeholders in mind, everybody that the policy affects, keeping that in mind that people do need to some of these tools to do their jobs. And the other one was tools, resources, or support that would be beneficial for implementation and compliance. We kind of thought that maybe it would be nice, we've got UW systems policies, we've got campus policies, and then of course, Department of Family Medicine is under the SMPH umbrella. So we've also got SMPH policies that we need to go through. It would be nice if there was a centralization or a way to, for all of those policies to be in one place in a way that's easily searchable, and maybe a way to reference them so that if you're looking for a specific topic, trying to search for that topic and find the policies that are specific to that topic, being able to find those easily would be helpful. It's about all we had.
Great. Thank you very much, Thomas. In room 3, I will do a brief aside here and say that we are going to have a few minutes for a Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions you'd like to put into chat now, we will have a couple of minutes to look at those at the end. Next, we'll move on to room 7. I'm seeing Dave, James, Jason, and Scott.
Hi, Scott Winger here. I'll be speaking for Group 7. We had a very active conversation. The first thing I'm going to bring up doesn't really fall into one of the 3 buckets they were given. One of the comments was policies without enforcement are wishful thinking. So what are the consequences of not following a policy? Was one of the things that came up. Let's see. But the consensus was clear. All of us were saying, I visit the policies website for guidance whenever I have to make an infrastructure decision. So, okay, so moving on, the cybersecurity certification we felt is very important. It's an important resource. This conference is also very important. I learned more things in the first 30 minutes of this conference today then I'm embarrassed to admit how much I learned in that first 30 minutes. So thank you. This conference is really important. Nice job. Knowing that there's a policy library and knowing that it exists is wonderful. Another thing is when customers push back on us and say, hey, I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that. It's wonderful to be able to point to a policy number. Okay, so moving on, challenges. One of the challenges is simply awareness. And so this conference is huge. 6 months ago, I did not know that there was a cybersecurity risk analysis intake process that I could help my customers with. And I had to stumble on that on my own. So awareness is a huge challenge. I'm glad I discovered it. I wish, however, that it had been brought to my attention. Then another challenge was being able to understand whether or not a particular policy applies to a given situation. So I guess that's a call for partnership between the policy writers and the policy folks that have to implement those policies. Sometimes we want, feedback, a back and forth so that we know that we're on the right track. Under tools that would be beneficial, we love and we really dislike the phishing exercises. All of us love them, but one of the comments was, I do not like the way my customers are made to feel shame when they fail. That's an interesting bit of feedback. So if we need to dialogue about that further, let's do that because it is important. I failed one of those and I was ashamed. I was working with a customer. I was in a hurry. I sensed something was wrong in the email field. It was obviously malformed, but I was in a hurry and I missed that. And so the customer, at my advice, said, no, this is okay. And egg on my face. And there was another technician in my group that had the same exact scenario. I didn't feel shame. I immediately communicated that out to the rest of my team via Teams, and I challenged them, how many things do you see wrong in this screenshot? But being made to feel shame, that was one comment that I think is really important. But we love the fact that you're raising the awareness with those. Another thing about those is, can we please have something in the KB that tells us about those so we can refer our customers to something in the KB? We understand that these are a UW system thing, but still being able to reference this for a customer who feels ashamed that, look, this is just something that's coming out. That'd be helpful. Lastly, it was really important to us that we wish we could be notified before our groups of customers start receiving this. We know that there may not be a way to do that, but we really wish that we could. Another really worthwhile piece of advice, this gentleman said that I can subscribe to a KB article so that when that article changes, I get a notification. He wishes that the policy library did the same thing. Can I subscribe to a policy so when that thing gets an update, I get notified? Another thing that came up was, is there a way to offer suggestions for revision? How do we provide feedback? Lastly, kudos. The consensus of Group 7 was it's exciting to have the policies website. Way to go.
Thank you, Scott, and Room 7. That was some really great feedback. Next up is Room 8. I see David, Mernaz, and Sam. Do you have some brief report outs for us?
Hello, this is Mernaz. I don't know if you can see me.
We can hear you, and I'm glad I didn't mangle your name. Thank you.
No, you did a great job. There was a lot of great discussion. Now, we didn't take a screenshot of the, of the questions. So we just went with term policy and just talked about that. Hopefully that's what's sufficient to report. But one of the things is like there's a lot of people who won't know what the policies is, where to look for. It's so there. It is always good, or what policy applies to what they're doing. So when people don't know what they don't know, it might be not that easy. Also, like because it's so everything is so distributed, it's not a huge organization with so many divisions, departments, and every department does their own thing. That's it. It makes it even harder to apply policies or communicate that effectively. Did I miss anything, my wonderful team? I don't see here anything else, so let's go with that.
Great. Thank you so much, Mernaz, in Room 8. And lastly, I know it's always hardest to be the last one because people have probably already taken your comments, but Room 10, Bernie, Laura, Lisa, and Vince. Do you have somebody who would like to report out?
We forgot to assign a reporter, so I can give a brief synopsis. What we spent most of the time talking about was implementing policies. When we know there's a policy that we need to follow, figuring out how to effectively get everybody on board, especially in a distributed campus environment. In DoIT, where I work, things are maybe a little bit easier because we've got a little more structure, and we know what's all in our domain. But taking a look at the larger campus to know what you should expect when you implement the policy and are trying to do things like audit reports, like how many of them should you get back. Also, processes for existing policies that we have, but there's no implementation strategy for them. Like, even if we have some roles defined, how do you start that process?
Okay.
I know that's all very generic, but
yeah, I can also add some. I took some notes for us. Was that a good line that came up in our conversation was translating policy into practice, and then what Bernie had the second to emphasize, like what should we be expected to report on for all the three different areas of the Thompson memo, including other policies. So it's like what should be expected in the communication requirements for who's the data user and who do we go to for questions of what should be done, basically. So that's what we came up with.
All right. Thank you very much to all of you in Room 10 here. Our feedback did go a little long here, but these comments were really great. And again, since we're recording the session, we've got everything noted down. So really appreciate all the comments that you've shared with us. We have just a few minutes here. If there are questions, we'll probably need to push them to the service account that Tim put out in chat. Right. And we have Jeff back. So I can throw over to Jeff and Tim for the last couple minutes here if we have a quick question.
Jason Persane, I like that comment about providing some public feedback. I think you know, as we continue to revise our processes and create efficiencies and everything like that within the policy development, I think definitely a public feedback opportunity is a great idea. So we'll look to the team to see if we can incorporate that, and if not, then you know, definitely try to receive some specific feedback from individual groups on campus. Oh, Ellen, we lost your audio.
Is my audio back on?
Now you are. Yep.
Okay. Basically, we did have some questions earlier in the chat, and we just wanted to make sure that people did get the answers, since not everybody monitors chats during these things. So the first question was about the cybersecurity certification program, and I can answer that one. It is going to be Canvas. So the other question in the chat was about in reference to the Thompson memo, and if there's a link, if your code is commented properly and readable, available for the audit. That question was about, does that work? So can you answer that, and whether or not there's a link to get to the Thompson memo?
Yeah, I'll jump in. In terms of the question, I think Dave Parter answered it well, in that we're looking for a documented plan. And so I don't know that code commenting would really meet that need. So I would recommend a documented plan. And in fact, what I'm going to try to do here is publish a knowledge base article, what a well-documented plan would look like as a sample template for people to use. So that could be a path forward if you want to develop a plan. What was the other question? I'm sorry.
Oh, basically, can somebody throw in a link to the Thompson memo or send it out somehow, or get
Yeah,
it to
I don't know
folks?
if that actually got published. If you want a copy of it, I can. That's something, if there's another future memo from the president, we want to make sure that they publish it so we can reference it. I think there was also in chat where I think a lot of the things in the Thompson memo, since it's going to be over a year old or will be soon, a lot of those things will either find their way into policy or be or just be dropped because they're taken care of at this point. So those things will find their way into policies that will be published. That's part of the issue with just having a memo, is that if it's not published, it's hard to go back and read it. And but if you do want to see I have a copy of it if you want to see it. So just let me know.
Okay, well, we're pretty much out of time, so I'm going to let everyone know that we've run out of time for questions, and so we'll need to conclude this session. And I'm sure, as we've said, our presenters will be happy to answer any additional questions you have by going to the itpolicy@cio.wisc.edu email. And you know who the presenters were, so if you contact them, they will probably be happy to respond to your emails as well. So thank you for attending this session. We have more great sessions coming up after lunch. So take a break, and we'll see you again for more conference sessions starting at 12:45. So thank you all for attending. Bye.